Good
morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to this morning session of Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome everyone to this morning session of Conversation with an Alum. This morning we have Olugbenga Ogunbowale, one of our prominent alum that will be speaking to us on funding opportunities, scholarships, and financial planning for economically disadvantaged youth. And to read his bio, I have American Corner Ikeja director in the person of Sulaiman Ogunbanjo. You have the floor now.
Thank you so much, Mark. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, distinguished guests. I'll be taking the bio now.
Yes.
Olugbenga, can you hear me, please?
Go ahead, sir.
All right, sir. Olugbenga Ogunbowale is a social entrepreneur and grant funding expert transforming Africa's economic landscape. As CEO of Grandmaster, he has helped clients and students secure more than $30 million in grants. His NGO, empowerment programs across 19 African countries, while his Google-backed cyber hygiene app has protected 45,000 Nigerian teens from cyberbullying. A two-time TEDx speaker, Olugbenga has been recognized by MasterCard, the United Nations, USA, and Voice of America. Equally, Olugbenga has earned 60+ awards, including African Fundraising Champion. He currently serves as a judge for the $1.5 million Africa Business Hero competition, and he is a Mandela Washington Fellow, a 2-time Google Africa Online Safety Fund winner, and a Harvard Business Review advisor who bridges international best practices with local insights. With applauses, please, welcome with me, Olugbenga Ogunbowale. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
So you can go ahead. You have the floor now.
Okay, all right. So just give me a minute, 60 seconds just to bring up my screen.
All right.
Please, can you also my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So good morning, everybody. I'm really excited to be here, and I want to thank the American Spaces for this opportunity. It's always a pleasure to, to converse with all of you. Always a pleasure. So I'm very excited to be here. This morning, very briefly, I'm going to be talking about funding your exchange, and specifically, I'm going to be talking about how you can attract scholarships and financial planning, as a young person in Nigeria. Now, I'm very excited that some of us have access to Zoom. And so you can give me feedback via chat, right? My sessions are always very, very interactive. So if you have access to Zoom right now, I see that there are about 17 persons on Zoom. I want you to go to the chat box right now and I want you to type ready. I want to know the people that are ready. Are you absolutely ready for this session? If you are, go to the chat right now and I want you to type ready. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Let me see the people that are ready. And if you're joining us wherever you are, joining us from, maybe you're joining from YouTube, wherever you're joining us from, right? I want you to really be excited for what you're going to learn today because, I'm here for you today. And I believe that this session is really going to be useful for you. Your window is ready. American Spaces, Nigeria is ready. Bass is ready. Fantastic. So let's get started, right? So let's start with the invisible ceiling, right? The invisible ceiling. There is this invisible ceiling. A lot of young people think that, oh, I was born in Nigeria, I was born in a rural community. Nobody in my family has an MBA or a master's, right? Maybe I'm even the first person in my family to go to secondary school, right? The village people are after my life, right? And so you're thinking, oh, the weight of the world is on my neck, right? So how can I possibly make it? And I want us to break that invisible ceiling together. Right? So here is the first thing I want you to know. The greatest barrier is lack of belief, not talent. Right? Not talent. Talent is evenly distributed. Talent is evenly distributed. Opportunity is where the problem is. Opportunity is not evenly distributed, but talent is evenly distributed. There is something that you're extremely good at. There is something that you're talented at. There is something that comes naturally to you, but it's difficult to other people. So, for example, when it comes to public speaking or engaging people, that comes naturally to me. It's almost as if it runs in the family. But for some other people, they find it very difficult. They struggle with it, right? But to me, if you ask me, that, oh, is this, something you're extremely good at? I probably wouldn't say it is. Why? Because it comes naturally to me, right? So the greatest barrier is not talent. It's the lack of belief. So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to believe in yourself, right? You're special. You're important. Believe in yourself. You can do it. Whatever anybody, has done, you can do. So the first thing is that belief. The next thing is the reality check. 85% of eligible disadvantaged students don't apply. There are opportunities right now that you're not applying for simply because you don't even know that they exist in the first place. And you cannot seize what you cannot see. So the very first thing, the second thing I want you to know is that you need to fine-tune, your antenna to know about opportunities in the first place, right? A lot of times, so let me quickly share a story, which goes to my first story. The first story is not even how I got a fully funded MBA. That's not even the story. It's the story of how I helped someone else to get that fully funded MBA. So what happened was I shared my story on social media, LinkedIn specifically, and then somebody saw that story and came to my DM on LinkedIn, and it was like, oh, Gbenga, thank you so much for sharing this story. I would love to get an MBA too and all of that. How did you do it? And then I shared, the link, I shared the story and all of that. And then he went on to apply, right? And months later, he came back to me to say, wow, I was selected. What was the difference between him? What was the gap between him, wanting an MBA and then getting the MBA? It was just information. Information, that's it. Information, right? Information. So I share this story because essentially, sometimes it's not because you're not good enough. It's not because, you don't have what it takes. It's because you don't even know where to look to start with. Right? So I got a fully funded MBA. I paid $0 for my MBA, executive MBA for that matter, $0. Right? So I needed to break these limiting beliefs. Break it. Right? You are capable, you are competent, you can do it. Next is I want us to talk about the money mindset. In my work at Grandmaster, we've helped clients and students secure over $30 million in grants. That's a lot of money. That's billions. By the time you do the conversion to Naira, right? That's a lot of money. Money follows the mission. I want you to know that. Money follows the mission. What is your mission, right? What change do you want to make in the world, right? What is your mission? What is it that makes your heart beat? What injustice are you seeing in the world that you want to change, right? So for us at Grandmaster, the injustice is that we look forward to a world where nobody who is doing amazing work, right, lacks the funding, to take it to the next level, right? We want to be the backbone for successful impact-driven organizations, right, who need funding. We want to be their backbone, right? So that's like our mission. If you come to us and say, oh, I'm in need of funding to grow my business, grow my NGO, that's why we exist. You need to ask yourself, what is my mission? Because money follows that mission. Now, let's start with scholarships and grants, for instance. How did I secure the free MBA from Quantic School of Technology? That's the name of the school, by the way. If you're interested, you can Google it up. It's Quantic School of Technology. How did I secure a fully funded MBA? Of course, I saw the opportunity online. Someone had posted about their experience. That was how I got to know about it. I saw it online, and then I went to read all I could find about them. I read about it. I read about the process, right? And the whole process. You just needed to send in your application. You needed to write, an essay and all of that. And my essay was very, very convincing. Basically, my essay, I gave them a breakdown. I explained why, I needed a scholarship. I explained, I did a financial breakdown, and that's one of the things, right? If you are applying for a fully funded opportunity, the people you're applying for, the school, the organization, they need to know that you truly cannot afford this. Why? Because they would rather give it to somebody else, right? If you can afford the MBA, pay for it now, allow other people who cannot afford it, to enjoy that opportunity. And so when you're applying for a fully funded opportunity, first of all, you need to make an economic case, right? You need to make an economic case. Let me pause at this point. I want to be sure that you're following. If you're following, I want you to go to the chat right now for people that have access to Zoom, and I want you to type economic case. In fact, let me start. Economic case. I'm getting this started. I want to be sure that you're following, right? I want to be sure that you're following. So go to the chat right now if you have access to Zoom and type economic case. Let's go. Yeah, American Spaces Nigeria, Josephine, economic case. American Corners, Calabar, I can see you. American Corner Lekki, I see you too. American Corner Ibadan, Benin City, I see you. Please, when I call your name, I call the name of your corner, can you please just wave? American Corner Lekki, can you wave? American Corner Calabar, can you wave? Can you wave? American Window on America, Yola, can you wave? Zaria, can you wave? Uyo, how are you doing? Benin, how's it going? Let me see. Ibadan, see my people. Ibadan, can you show? Oh yeah, let's go, let's go, let's go. Makodi, I see you. Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Economic case. All right, okay. So you need to make an economic case. If you're applying for a fully funded opportunity, you need to show a breakdown. And the way I did it was, okay, I gave them, okay, like this is my monthly income, this is my yearly income. This is why today I cannot afford, this MBA, right? And if you give me this MBA, this is exactly what I'll be able to do. And I make that economic case. So you need to show that indeed you cannot afford, that scholarship. That's number one. And then number two, you show what you will do with that knowledge, right? See, an MBA is an investment. A scholarship is an investment. A fellowship is an investment in you, in your capacity. So you need to show what you will do with it, right? They don't just want to give you an MBA and then the only thing you have is you just have like a plaque in your office or something, showing that you have an MBA. Like nobody wants to give you, a scholarship if the only thing you're going to do is just brag on social media that you have that degree. They want to know the impact, the change that you're going to make in the world, right? So you need to make an economic case. Sorry, let's go back. Okay, so you need to make an economic case, right? Now, talking about global impact, of course, I have over 60 awards. My NGO has impacted over 25,000 orphans. One thing you should also know is that every single thing you do compounds. What you do compounds, right? Some of the things that you're doing right now may not make sense. It may not even look like it's connected, but I assure you that everything is connected. So for some of you now, for instance, maybe you're volunteering somewhere. When you're volunteering, it shows that you are someone who is selfless, because you cannot be a volunteer and be a selfish person. No volunteer is a selfish person. So that volunteering that you're doing, that work that you're doing in your mosque, in your church, right? All of those unpaid things that you're doing, all of those things add up to your work experience. They add up to your experience. They add up to your CV, right? So it may not make sense now, but I want you to look back at your journey, look back at all of the things. So let me give you an example of my own journey, for instance. When I finished secondary school, I taught in the primary school for some months. Then, I used the money from that primary school because, my parents were like, all your siblings are in the university. We don't have money for computer center. I'm like, okay, how can I get this money? So I went to teach in the primary school for 6 months. Took all of that money, went to computer center. I went to learn desktop publishing. When I got into university, I started teaching people in their final year, right? Started teaching them how to use basic tools like, Microsoft Office, graphics. That was how I made money. In fact, to share this story, it got to a point where I just told my parents, stop sending money from home, right? Oh, okay, no, not like I told them. So what happened was my dad called and it was like, oh, you've not been asking us for money from home. What's happening? Are you fine? I'm like, I don't need this money, right? I'm fine. And essentially what was happening was that I was doing all of these trainings. I was doing, things that were bringing money to me, right? And so by the time I was out of school, went for my NYC. During my NYC, I was a very exceptional corps member, did amazing things. So in the future, when I started applying for opportunities, guess the stories I was telling. The stories I was telling were about those things that I did in the past. The best proof of what you can do is what you have done. Somebody did not get that. Let me take that again. The best proof of what you can do is what you have done. So everything you're doing right now is building up, is building up, is building up. Those are the stories you are going to tell, right? So you need to be mission driven. Your mission attracts funding, not the opposite. It's your mission. It's your mission. It's what you're doing in the world. It's the change that you're making in the world, right? Next. Now, let's talk about the 3 financial barriers and how you can crush them. Let's talk about the financial barriers. Number 1 is information asymmetry, right? I mentioned this earlier, but let me take it again. The privileged people know what you don't. The people who are getting massive scholarships, getting massive fellowships, getting into all these global programs, it's information, right? It's information, right? So you need to fix this information asymmetry. First of all, the fact that you're on this call, that you're watching this right now, shows that you are serious about fixing that information asymmetry. So one of the ways to fix this information asymmetry is you sign up for newsletters, for opportunity websites. You have websites like grants4me.xyz. That is if you're interested in chasing grants, right? Sign up for grants4me.xyz. If you're interested in scholarships, fellowships, sign up for a website like opportunitydesk.org, right? You need to fix that information asymmetry. So if you have friends that the only thing they talk about is, how are we going to, chase girls, chase boys, how are we going to go to the beer parlor, all of those irrelevant things that will not add to your future. How are we going to do drugs? You need a new circle of friends, right? Because there are times that you will miss an opportunity, you won't see those opportunities, but because you have the right people, that opportunity will come to you. Let me give you an example. There was this grant that I won about 2 years ago. And what happened was that I was just scrolling on WhatsApp and I saw it on the WhatsApp status of a friend. Literally. And it was going to close in 24 hours. And I applied. Ladies and gentlemen, lo and behold, I won that grant. And I was the only one from Nigeria that won that grant, right? And it all happened from the information that I saw on a WhatsApp status. So who are your friends, right? Show me your friends and I will tell you where you're going. Who are your friends? You need to fix that information asymmetry, right? Track platforms that have the information that you require, and make sure that you surround yourself, with people who are going in the same direction as yourself. Another thing is the qualification paradox. You need credentials to get credentials, right? I don't know if you've heard this joke, but usually when companies are hiring for positions, they will say things like, we need 5 years experience. We need 4 years experience. So if you're a fresh graduate out of school, where will you get 4 years experience from? Where will you get 3 years experience from? And the answer to that is, right, it's the things that you're doing now. Even if you're just out of secondary school or you are in university or you are applying for JAMB, right? Regardless of where you are right now, all the things that you're doing now, they add up, right? If you're a volunteer in an NGO or you're working in your mosque, in your church, all of those things add up. And by all means, if you are job hunting right now, my advice would be that you start volunteering, start doing something, right? No matter how small it is, even if it's maybe teaching in a primary school that is near you, something. The money may not be much, right? But you need those things to build your capacity. You need them. You don't necessarily have to stay in a low-paying job, forever, right? Even if it's 6 months, like I did when I worked in a primary school. If it's 6 months, just to gather funds to do something big, you need it. You need that opportunity. If you're job hunting and you don't have any job experience, you're not doing anything to upgrade your skills, that's a problem, right? Nobody wants to hire, someone who does not have anything to offer. So you need credentials, right? Next is network. Again, I talked about friendships. Aside from like the friends that you surround yourself with, you also need to consider mentors. A mentor is someone who is doing every day what you want to do someday. Or at the very least, a mentor is someone who has done that thing that you want to do. So you need to look around your network. Who are the people, in my community, in my society? It could even be online, people that, you admire, right? Don't go to them and say, hey, can you be my mentor? No, because they get all those requests all the time, right? Why not go to them and say, I see that you have this program coming up. I would love to volunteer, right? Very few people try to offer value. Most people are trying to extra value, right? If I tell you the number of people that come to my DM on WhatsApp asking me for money, you will be shocked, right? Because of course, I'm the CEO of Grandmaster. So therefore, it's bullion van, I must be sharing money. It doesn't work that way. All of these people that you want to mentor you, they also have problems, they have issues, they have things, right? So offer some form of value first, and then it's easier to get anybody to mentor you. It's easier because the request that people hear all the time is gimme, gimme, gimme. So if you go with I want to give mindset, it's easier to get that person that you want to mentor you, it's easier to get them to mentor you, right? And I want to end this slide here with this. your financial situation is temporary. It's not your destination. I can assure you. It's a temporary roadblock, right? Regardless of whatever amount of money you have in your bank account right now, it's temporary. That's not your destination, right? It's temporary. So let's move on to the next slide. Funding is not lottery. Funding is a strategic game, right? It's not lottery. So how do you get funding, right? And how do you break into all these global exchanges? First of all, you have government exchanges. You have exchanges like Mandela Washington Fellowship. I'm a fellow. I'm a 2019 Mandela Washington Fellow, right? Of course, very exciting opportunity. We're in the United States. In fact, I met Rooney. I met Dr. Ben Carson, right? So many wonderful memories and experiences, of my time in the States. And so if you are a young leader and maybe you're an entrepreneur, you're in an NGO, you work in an NGO, Mandela Washington Fellowship is certainly an opportunity that you should take advantage of, right? You also have opportunities like Fulbright, Chevening. Chevening, they'll pay for your master's, right? And it's by the UK government. So explore all of these opportunities. These are government exchanges that you should apply for. It's better for you to apply and not be selected than for you to not apply in the very first place, right? Another one is university funds, right? These are need and merit-based scholarships. So I give you an example of my fully funded MBA. You also have corporate and foundations. Sometimes you have foundations that give out scholarships. Most times they give out sponsorships and they give out grants. You need to track all of these organizations. Like you can even have a list or a spreadsheet for yourself where you have like opportunities, you have their deadlines and you're chasing them, right? And so you see, you have to change the game. You need to change it. You need to change the game, right? So let's move on to the next slide very quickly. The funding framework has 3 P's. The first is position. You need to position yourself. You need to be the kind of person that can get into a global fellowship. You need to be the kind of person that can get into that can win a global scholarship. You need to be the kind of person that, when people see global opportunities, they are literally calling you up and saying, Gbenga, have you seen this? Right? Have you seen this opportunity? So you need to position yourself, build your credentials. For some of you on this call, what you need to do is you probably need to start taking online courses, right? You need to probably get a job. You need to volunteer in a place. Identify what that means for you, right? Build your capacity. Again, the best proof of what you can do is what you have done. So let me go back to my NYC days for 1 minute. During my NYC, I served in a community called Omala in Kogi State. By the time I started serving that community, they had, first of all, there was barely water in that community. In the school that I went to, I asked for their library. When I went there, the books they were older than my dad. Like essentially, the library, there was no furniture. It was all topsy-turvy. The first time I entered class, JSS3 class, and I asked them, what is, I think I asked them, what is 6 times 6? And people were pressing calculator. I'm like, what in the name of education is going on here? Right? How can you be in JSS3 and then you're pressing calculator to find what 6 times 6 is? And so I knew that there were a lot of challenges and all of that. Quite a number of people in that community ran away from the community. They ghosted, right? They're like, I cannot stay in this place. But instead, I took it upon myself. I took up that challenge. And okay, before I talk about the things that I did, another thing I noticed in that community was, I noticed that students will come late to school. So let's say you're supposed to be in school by 7:30. They'll come late. They'll come like 10. And then they'll not be sent home for school fees by 10:30. So how many minutes of education have you had? 30 minutes of education. And sent home for school fees of how much? 1,500. I was angry in my spirit. Like, what is going on in this place? How can people be sent off for 1.5? So some of the things that I did, I organized skill acquisition programs for them, taught them how to, make bow tie, make chin-chin, all sort of things, so that some of the students, especially in senior classes, can start small businesses, and so that they themselves can pay their school fees by themselves, right? I started that. I launched a scholarship scheme for brilliant students, meaning that if you are a brilliant student, but you cannot afford your school fee, we will pay for you, right? Launch that. I renovated the library, right? Bought furniture, put banners, bought books, right, for that library. What else did I do in that community? The library. I organized competitions, all sorts of educational competitions, quizzes, and all of that to get the students to read. By the time I finished my service here, I was one of the top 10 core members in the state. Right. One day to POP, I got a phone call from Kogi State. They were like, "Yes, congratulations! I bring you greetings from the governor of Kogi State." That is the thing with impact. When you make a massive impact, the next thing is you're going to be recognized. But a lot of times, young people chase the recognition without wanting to do the work. You've got it backwards. You need to first do the work. You need to first do the work, right? Even Mandela Washington Fellowship, I applied 4 times in a row. The first 3 times I was not selected. But by the 4th time that I applied, the impact that I had, by the time I went to the interview, I knew from that interview that I was going to be selected, because even the people that were interviewing me were like, wow, like this is massive impact. And so you need to do the work, right? Proof. Only fools doubt proof. Proof. Deliver results. Build your reputation. Proof, proof, proof. And then, of course, the final pillar that I want to talk about here is pitch. You need to learn how to sell yourself, right? You need to learn how to write, right? Writing and pitching is a very critical skill, right? A closed mouth is a closed destiny. If you cannot pitch, in fact, you know what? One of the things that people should be accusing you of is that your mouth is sweet. They should be saying, your mouth is sweet. Yes, because if you cannot sell yourself, nothing will happen. No, don't expect that your work will just speak for itself by itself. No, you need to first do great work, but you also need to know how to sell yourself, right? So you need to sharpen your writing skills. You need to sharpen your public speaking skills. Those are some of the skills that will help you, break into global opportunities. So let me share with you some key things that you can do, right? Again, you need to use free skills to improve your profile. I mentioned this earlier, meaning that think about, what courses can I take? What free online courses can I take, right? To improve your profile. When you improve your skills, right? And maybe you're volunteering somewhere, you're working somewhere, you're doing all of these things to build up your CV, right? The next thing is you need to have a digital portfolio. It doesn't have to be a website, but if you can, build a personal website for yourself. For instance, I have a personal website for myself. It's gbenga.com, right? You don't have to build a personal website. It can be your social media, especially your LinkedIn. If I come to your LinkedIn and I check your profile, I should be able to see the things that you've done. Your LinkedIn is like, your living, breathing CV, right? And it's free of charge, right? So set it up, right? Another thing is trade expertise for access. Let me give you an example. There are programs, there are even paid programs that you can get into if you volunteer for those things. Remember what I said about how you can get, mentors to mentor you. All the time they hear people say, give me, give me, give me. If you tell them I'm going to, I'm willing to volunteer for your organization, or I would like to provide this particular value for free. Now, what are you doing? You're trading expertise for what? For access. And at the final point, and I know that I've talked about this before, is leverage networks. Leverage networks. You belong to a network, whether in your mosque, in your church, whether it's in American spaces, you belong to a network. Leverage those networks. In order for you to leverage those networks, first of all, you need to be willful. You need to be valuable. That's what I mean. You need to first be valuable. It is when you are valuable, right, that people can think about you when there are opportunities and all that. It's when you are valuable, right? Think of why American spaces invited me to be on this call. It's because they know, my track record. They know the things that I'm doing, and they're like, oh, we need someone to speak for this. Who can do it? Then they called me, right? So you need to leverage those networks. Be of value to the network. If you're always trying to extract from a network, extract from your friends or from people around you, you will be seen as a parasite. You don't want to be a parasite, right? You want to be someone of value. And then I want to end with this, a tactical execution plan. What are the things you can do within the next 90 days, right? To help you get, win fellowships, scholarships, or maybe even grants, right? For the next 30 days, I want you to start researching opportunities, scholarships. If you're the kind of person who is looking for maybe masters, your PhD, start researching opportunities, right? For the next 30 days, right? For days 1 to 60, when you're researching, also check the eligibility criteria, check the things you're looking for. From days 31 to 60, what you then do? Build your application assets, your essays, your CVs, your recommendations, build it. From days 61 to 90, start submitting and developing references, right? And this is why it's important that you build your capacity, that you show your competence wherever you are, whether you're working in the place as an employee, you're volunteering, whatever it is that you're doing. Be the kind of person that delivers results, delivers value. If you're working in a place and during work hours, you are doing social media, you're wasting your time, you are simply blowing your chances of success. You're blowing it literally, because if you are the kind of person that people cannot rely on at work, your presence is not missed. Your presence is not felt. Your absence is not missed, right? Even in your church or religious organization, nobody knows whether you are there or not. Anywhere you are, people don't know that you exist, right? You're just a statistic. That's a problem. Because when you're applying for global opportunities, they will ask for references. And so if you need references, who will you call? Will you go to that place of work where they fired you because you were not performing well? Or will you go to that church where even the people in the church or mosque, they don't even know that you're a member, right? Where will you go exactly? Will you go to American Corner where they only see you once a year? Nobody even can trace you, right? So that is why you need to be someone who is reputable. You need to build your competence, right? You need to build your reputation, your ability to consistently deliver, so that when you need references, you can get high-powered references. Let me give you an example. If you go to Grandmaster's website and you check our, advisory board, it's fire. People that have worked at World Bank, Google, big organizations. Why? Because they know that we are reputable people, right? They know that the CEO is a reputable somebody. It's not somebody that will be involved in a scam or EFCC will be chasing. Mentors will not put their name on the line for you if you're not a reputable person. If you're not somebody that they can trust, they will not put their name on the line for you, right? So this is the 90-day plan that I have for you. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to wrap things up here. Your location, right, is not destiny. Your location is just your present situation. The amount of money right now in your pocket is not your destiny. That is not the final bus stop, right? If you leverage all of the things I've talked about in this call, in fact, the sky is just a starting point for you, right? It's not the limit, it's just a starting point. So whenever you read about someone winning a global opportunity or something, right? The next time you see that, I want you to ask yourself, I want you to tell yourself, that can be me. That can be me, right? That is your destiny. Your destiny is global. Your destiny is glorious. You can do amazing things as long as you put in the work, right? You apply for these opportunities. I think that the next time I'll be having a talk like this, or the American spaces will having a talk like this, you will be the next success story. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now to questions.
Let's give our facilitator a round of applause for that engaging and educative session. Okay, so if you have a question, please can you raise your virtual hand? Okay, so we have a question. We have two questions from American Spaces Nigeria. Kindly mention some of the platforms to make research for funding opportunities. Then in your story, while you were serving Nigeria, what were your sources of funds for those projects that you said you executed during your youth service? Cool.
Thank you very much. So let me start from the first question. In terms of platforms to make research for funding opportunities, I'm also going to type this inside the chat. You can use grants4me.xyz. That is if you are searching for grants, grants4me.xyz. If you're searching for scholarships and fellowships, you can use opportunitydesk.org. And in fact, Opportunity Desk is a platform by another Mandela Washington fellow, Grace. That's her name, Grace. So yes, you can see that Mandela Washington fellows are everywhere doing amazing things. So for question 2 in your story, while you were serving Nigeria, what were your sources of funds? It was a lot of crowdfunding, right? That was how I raised money to do that project. It was a lot of crowdfunding. I basically wrote proposals, and then I talked to friends that I knew, my rich friends. I talked to, I leveraged my community, right? So it was a lot of crowdfunding, right? Some of it was personal funds, but most of it was money that I raised from family and friends. And I basically leveraged my pitching skills. And so I wrote a lot of proposals. I disturbed my friends, my rich friends, and that was how I was able to get the money for that. And also some of that money was from even people in the community, right? And some of the money was even from fellow core members, like our scholarship fund, for instance, it was in collaboration with fellow core members. So I basically leveraged all of my networks, right? Because as at the time I did the project, as at the time I started, those projects, I had already invested in a lot of people, right? To give you a scale of my investments, before I started serving in that community, nobody had won a merit award in that community for 5 years. Nobody had won a merit award. People just go to that community, they don't do anything, right? When I left, the set after me, 2 persons won merit awards. 2 persons. In fact, the overall best core member came from that community. What happened? Because I was a catalyst, right? The core members after my set, they were like, if Olugbenga can do it, we can do it too. They saw the things that I did in the community. And they were just inspired. They were just fired up. 2 persons, 2 out of 10. Do you know what that means? For one local government to provide 2 out of 10, and they were from the same local government, right? So that was how I was able to pull the funds. It was basically a lot of pitching, writing a lot of proposals, and that was how I was able to get the money to do all of those things.
Thank you very much. We have Victoria Adeyeye. Can you unmute? Tell us your location and ask your question.
Good morning. My name is Victoria Adeyeye and I'm in Ibadan. I want to appreciate Mr. Ogunbowale for a wonderful session. I also want to tell him that he has been influential to my grant winning stories. And I want to ask if we could get a recording of this live class so that we can refresh and learn more. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The
Thank you
recording
for your
is
kind
going
words.
to, sorry, Gbenga. The recording is, we have a live recording as we're talking. There's a link on our Facebook page back to our YouTube channel. So I'll be posting the link right here on the chat. Over to you.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say, thank you for your kind words, right? I mean, I had no idea that I've been, of some value to you. So thank you for your kind words. And please watch the recordings to catch up. Thank you.
All right, so we have Bukola. Please unmute, tell us your location and ask your question.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, American Spaces. Good morning, Coach Gbenga. And thank you, American Spaces, for hosting Mr. Gbenga. He has been a coach, just like the other person said. Yes, I've met him, and I think I even spoke last night with him. Like every time I come in contact with him, it's like a refresher. So I told him I'm going to catch up with today's class so that I can pick his brain again. And so I know that a few things he has mentioned again has re-energized me. I've been in his class, his Grandmaster class, and I've learned quite a number of things. And I just want to refire up. So a few things he has said today has also is been impactful. I, for one, I do a number of things, but then what I saw that he said that resonated more with me today is that volunteer to gain access. Volunteer to gain access and, of course, make impact. So how do I connect with, how do I make myself known with the things I'm doing? What value am I putting to my own community? I need to do some things for free. I need to make people know that I can help you solve a problem for free. It's not just about money. I need to gather experience, gather a portfolio get a good name for myself in the things I know how to do best, so that in future, should they need a reference for something that somebody needs to talk about, they mention somebody's name, and that could be me. So thank you, Dr. Gbenga, and of course, American Spaces, for having us again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bukola, for your contribution. So Calabar, can you unmute while Ikeja gets set? Calabar, please unmute and ask your question.
Morning. My question is, I have a brother that just finished his master's, and he has been applying for so many scholarships online abroad, but no one has been coming through. And right now, he's just done with his scholarship, with his master's. He wants to start his PhD. So the question I want to ask is, what can he do to get a faster PhD scholarship? Because I think maybe those other ones they have been applying, maybe I don't know if it's the scam or it's not meeting the requirements. So I want to know, what can he do to have a faster PhD funding?
Okay. Thank you very much for the question, right? So, first of all, full disclosure, what I have is an MBA, an executive MBA, right? I do not have a PhD, but from my experience, I think the fastest way to get whatever you want, right, is to seek mentorship from somebody who has done it. So what I would advise your brother to do is to make a list of the people that he knows who have gotten fully funded PhDs in the countries that he wants to go, right? Very simple. Make a list of those people and then reach out to them. Those are the people that will tell you, okay, this is how to do it. This is who you should talk to, right? So it's very, very simple. Just make a list of all of those people who have already done what you want to do, right? Especially in this case, this PhD thing, and then they will guide you from there. That's the fastest way.
Okay. Thank you. We have a very long question on the chat box from Richard Oyelabi. Maybe while you are reading through that, let me ask Ikeja to ask their question. Ikeja, can you
Okay.
unmute and ask your question?
Okay. Good morning, Dr. Gbenga and the American Corner. Thanks for the opportunity to be part of this program. I think I've learned so much from Dr. Gbenga being under his training this morning. Okay, I would like to know if seeking for a scholarship or opportunity like this, does does he has age limitation, and also does study gap, does it have any impact on this particular program? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much. So first of all, you asked about age and then study gap. So yeah, age is a factor, especially for a lot of fellowships. For a lot of fellowships, if you are above 35, you cannot. However, there are fellowships that their own age limit is 40. Like Mandela Washington, the age limit is 35, I think. Except it has changed now, but 35 last time I checked. And then so you have some other grants, other fellowships where it's 40, 45. So yes, age has a lot to do with quite a number of these opportunities. And in terms of the gap, maybe you can explain what you mean by the gap. What do you mean by the gap? Is it like a gap in your work experience? Please, if you can return and explain what you mean by the gap.
Okay, what I mean by gap is like someone that's graduated from university, let's say 15, 18, 20 years ago, now is trying to put in for masters, or someone that have done master for a couple of years ago and now is trying to put in for PhD. Does this have impact on the...
Oh, no. That's a normal thing, right? Most people don't do masters or PhD immediately after they graduate. The people that usually do that are people that are interested in academia, right? Most people don't. I mean, I graduated in 2013, right? I didn't do my MBA, until another like close to 9-10 years after. So that's like the typical story for most people. Most people do not, right? So that's absolutely fine. As long as that break that you took from school, as long as you've been doing work, you can show that these are the things that I've been doing, right? You're absolutely fine. That's a normal thing.
Okay. So Ikeja, you got your answer. So let's go to Uyo. Uyo, please unmute and ask your question.
Please, how can a young person who is volunteering in a particular company when he or she is not financially stable? How can a person who will be volunteering in a company when he or she is not financially stable? Thank you.
That's a brilliant question. I love the question, right? Because essentially volunteering involves, your time, right? And so how do you volunteer when you're financially stable? Let me look back at how I did it, for instance. I mean, in my own case, the times that I volunteered, right, where I was in school. I remember one particular volunteering that I did. I was in school. I was someone on campus. I was in school, right? And so the volunteering did not give me any money or anything like that. It just gave me, access, give me exposure, right? And I was able to, make an impact. And so I can talk about how I was able to sustain myself as a young person. So remember what I told you about my experience with finishing school. I finished secondary school, and then I went to my dad, like, oh, I need money to learn how to use a computer. And my dad was like, what you're saying is fantastic. I love it. But right now, all of your siblings are in our institution. I do not have, money for this one, right? And I didn't take no for an answer. I simply went down the street. There was no vacancy. Even the school I went to, I just entered the primary school, right? And then I pitched myself. I said, I'm a young person out of secondary school. I can teach in your primary school. There was no vacancy in front of that school, right? So for everybody on this call, just in case you think that, oh, there must be a vacancy somewhere, sometimes you need to break down the door, right? Sometimes there's even no door like this. You create the door. I walked into that school. The proprietor told me that she had never seen anything like this before in her life. That she had never seen it before. That somebody would just come in. There's no vacancy. There was really no vacancy inside that school. No teacher was. She created a position for me, right? She made me a secretary. She said, okay, I love your boldness. You will be my PA, my secretary. And she just said somebody should bring table and chair for her in her office. And that was how I became secretary and PA, right? And then when a teacher resigned about 3 months later, that was, my opportunity to start teaching in school. And I spent about 6 months in that school. So why am I sharing this story? Just in case, there's a young person who is out of school, who's like, oh, I don't have money and all of that. There is always something you can do. Look at your environment. Let me give another example. The first time I did any form of seminar or training, I think it was also, I think maybe I was necessary or I just finished school, right? And I just did a training on bulk SMS. As at that time, bulk SMS was new and all. I just did a training on bulk SMS, and funny enough, the people that attended were a lot of older people who had businesses and all of that. And I made some change from there, right? So there is always something that you can do to make an income. It might just be working in a low-paying job somewhere. Even if that job is paying you peanuts, you have a goal, you have a vision, but that your goal needs money, right? So any way that you can earn money legitimately is exactly what you should do, right? So I've shared my journey so that you can understand how I made money, while I was growing, a lot of that, how I made money. But you think about your own environment. What are the things that you can do? Right? What are the things that you can do? Because I understand what you're saying. Your question is coming from a place of how am I going to volunteer if I don't even have any money? You need to find something that gives you revenue, no matter how tiny that revenue is, something that can sustain you, that can help you buy data, that can give you TFAIR to attend programs where you meet people that are going somewhere, right? So you absolutely need that. You need to find some source of income. And if possible, if you're volunteering an NGO that can cover at least your stipend or your transport fare, you can also have that conversation. So I hope that helped.
Thank you very much. So let's move to Calabar. Do you still have another question? Calabar. Gbenga, were you able to read the question on the chat box from Richard? He was asking about,
yes.
Okay,
Yes,
maybe you
yes.
can answer that.
Okay, all right. So Richard, thank you very much for your question. The opportunities are for both people that are in the NGO space and for entrepreneurs. So let me give an example. You look at Mandela Washington Fellowship. Mandela Washington Fellowship has different tracks. There's a public management track, there's an entrepreneurship track, that's the business track. And that was the track that I applied for. So there are opportunities for businesses too. In fact, there are some grants that are just for businesses, right? So for example, I'm a MasterCard grantee. And that kind of grant is strictly business. Do you understand? You cannot be an NGO person and apply for that. It's business, strictly business. And so there are opportunities for that. There are opportunities that are for NGOs, there are opportunities that are for businesses. And so you can apply. The fact that you're an entrepreneur does not mean that you cannot chase those opportunities. Okay, then part of what you said is
okay.
There's a second part of this question. Is it just matter people to focus majorly on self-funding? No. So this is not about chasing the bag aggressively. All of these programs are an opportunity for you to grow your network, to also access funding, but the end goal is really who you become. Do you understand? There are people that attend prestigious fellowships and at the end they have nothing to show for it, right? Because they did not utilize the opportunity very well. Meanwhile, there are other people that through a fellowship, some big mighty thing happens in their life, right? Let me give an example. I know of someone who went to the Mandela Washington Fellowship, and from there, he started talking to lecturers in that school and started telling them about his work. Oh, this is the work that I do and all of that. And he got a fully funded PhD. Yes. Do you understand? He got a fully funded PhD. So when you apply for all of these programs, it's not about chasing the bag. No, it's really about who you become, right? It's about leveraging access. So for example, now you have access to American spaces. Do you know that there are people in your community that don't even know what an American space is? They don't even know what an American corner is, right? So it's really about leveraging access, leveraging all of the access that you get, leverage it. That's how this works. So I hope that helped.
Okay. So we have a question from Joss, Window in America. Have you been this confident and outspoken, or did you learn this skill? If you did learn, share how you navigated the process so we can learn from you.
Wow. This is a brilliant question. Okay. All right. So some of it is genetic, right? Some of it is genetic. Some of it is genetic. And essentially my dad is late now, but he was, very outspoken, very bold. He was, also a pastor. So some of it is genetic because in my family, if for instance we're having a family meeting, you would think that you have a bunch of motivational speakers who are meeting each other. So some part of it is genetic, right? I have to admit the genes, right? I have to give kudos to my parents, my mom and my dad for passing on good genes. Part of it is genetic. However, the other part that is not genetic is the training. So to give you an example, I've always put myself in situations where I harnessed my skills. In secondary school, I was a member of the Jets Club. And in Jets, you do a lot of presentations. And I remember, representing Oyo State several times, even as a secondary school student. We won so many awards, plenty awards, right? Secondary school was when I started winning all sorts of awards, right? But then, in secondary school, when you win those awards, you go and put it in your principal's office, right? It's now that, of course, I'm a social entrepreneur now, so the awards are in my office now. But that was really when I started like just racking up awards and doing stuff, all right? And so I put myself in situations where I sharpen my skills. So if, for instance, you're still in secondary school here, it's a fantastic opportunity for you to maybe, join a club where you give presentations a lot. If you're out of secondary school, there are organizations you can join that will help you sharpen your public speaking. So for example, there is a Toastmasters club. There's Toastmasters club. And then Grandmaster, we have trainings. There is Grand Success School, which is for people who want to learn how to win grants. There's a pitching component of that. So if you're someone who's looking to win grants, and fellowships, for instance, you can check out Grand Success School. Just Google Grand Success School, right? Or just go to our website, grandmaster.xyz, right? Or just search for my name and connect on social media. I'll respond to you, right? So those are the mediums that you can use to essentially sharpen your skills. You need to put yourself in a situation where you are giving presentations, because those things really help you. So whether it's a club, whether it's a community, whether it's an organization, put yourself in a position where you are giving presentations, often. That will help you. Let me give you another example. In my organization at Grandmaster, every Monday we have team meetings. And during the team meeting, we always have presentations. So team members, get to present. It's like a rotation. We rotate. Meaning that if you work at Grandmaster, it's impossible for you to not know how to present, right? To not know how to talk. And so you need to constantly put yourself in, in situations like that where you're giving presentations, you're talking, because persuasion is key, right? Anything you want in life, nearly everything you want in life, you must pitch for it, right? So it's not just work. You have to do the work, but you also need to know how to sell yourself. So I hope that helped.
So we have another question this one is from your constituency, American Corner Ibadan. In a situation where I haven't made such impacts as you have, and I'm just starting, and I feel like time is not on my side, what will you advise I do?
Very easy. Start volunteering. Right? American Corner Ibadan, for instance, has a lot of programs. You can start by that, just volunteering. Do you understand? Maybe they need help with logistics. And in fact, the best option is if maybe you have skills, everybody has a talent. So what is the skill that you have? Your talent could be organizing, it could be in logistics, it could be planning, right? It could even be maybe you're good at being an MC, or you're good at some skill. Find a way that skill can be useful to, even if it's American, you can start from American Corner or NGO, start volunteering. That way you can build your experience. Do you understand? And if you work, I don't know your particular situation, maybe you're working somewhere. If you're working somewhere, be the hardest working person in that organization. People don't understand it. Sometimes when I see people who are working in places and they are doing shoddy work, I feel sad because they don't know the opportunity that they are literally just throwing away or lighting on fire. When you're working in an organization, it's a fantastic opportunity for you to grow your skills, for you to show competence, right? So what I would advise is, if you probably don't have a full-time job right now, start volunteering. Do you understand? If you do have a full-time job, become the hardest working person in the organization. Become the go-to person. That if the CEO wants to go on a break, right, and they're looking for somebody, who can do X, Y, Z, it is you that they are calling, right? So that's really it. You need to build your capacity, right? And you need to prove your competence, right? Again, don't forget what I said. The best proof of what you can do is what you have done. So right now, you need to start racking up those wins. Start volunteering. If you're working in a place, start showing that you're of value. Even if you're in a community, a small community, be of value to that community. Let me give you an example. So the place that I was living before I moved to where I was living now, right? It was a very big compound, very, very huge. We had, several talents. Part of what I did was I just volunteered to be secretary. Like when we have our meetings like that, I just volunteered. It was volunteering. Why? Because I know I can organize. I'm well organized, I can organize. And so when people are complaining about, oh, our caretaker is difficult, blah, 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 I have a completely different relationship with that same caretaker. Why? Because I am of value. I'm making our life easier. That is even as a tenant in a place, right? I am valuable. So even in your community, do you understand? What contribution are you making? There are people in that same community that when they cough like this, the entire community catches cold, good cold, right? Not bad cold, because they are of value. So really, you need to start thinking about how can I be a mad person? Mad in this case is making a difference. Wherever you find yourself, be of value, right? Be of value to people in your community. Build your capacity. That way, that helps you. So I hope that helped.
Yes, very well. Thank you. So we are all getting inspiration to be mad from now on, making a difference. That's good. So Esiogene Raymond, I don't know where she's chatting from. She said, "Thank you, sir, for this session. I noticed that you focus mostly on graduates. How can an undergraduate navigate themselves through grants and sponsorship?"
Again, a fantastic question, right? So as an undergraduate,
attention to conflict, this is post one.
Sorry, I didn't hear that. Somebody said something now.
Incident occurred
Just
2 years
a
ago
second.
in Anambra.
Just a second. We have an
In 10
announcement.
minutes.
Okay.
Please go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. So as you're gonna, if you're another graduate, one of the things you need to start applying for is you need to start applying for scholarships, right? Scholarships. And this was something that I wish that I knew when I was in school, and I wish that I did more of. While we were in school, then there were some of our classmates that they were not paying their school fees by themselves, and it was not their parents that were paying their school fees. They just won scholarships, plenty, right? Some of them were on 2-3 scholarships, NMPC, all sorts of scholarships. And the rest of us did not even know about these opportunities in the first place. So you need to, if you're an undergraduate, apply for scholarships. There are a lot of organizations who give out scholarships to brilliant students. Of course, you also must be brilliant, right? Because they will not give it to you if you're not doing well in school. So you need to apply for scholarships. Also, fellowships. There are fellowships that are for undergraduate students, right? Let me give an example. CCUB has this program for leaders on campuses, a fellowship, right? And so there are opportunities that are for undergraduates. You need to first, chase those opportunities, apply for them because they are useful for you. They will help you grow, right? And they will give you networks. If as an undergraduate, you're already applying for those opportunities, you're already attending programs, you're already meeting people that matter. By the time you graduate, you will not be struggling to look for a job. It is job that will be looking for you, right? So, again, I hope that helped.
I cannot see any hand up. Do we still have Calabar? Do you have question? No. Okay. So let me ask the last. I think there's a question from American Corner in Badon. That would be the last question for this morning. So you emphasized on giving, help, and volunteering. Can I also volunteer in any project you are doing, probably in the future, sir? I never knew organizing is a skill. Thanks for that information.
Yeah, it's absolutely a skill. Okay, yeah. So I just shared my LinkedIn. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Just say hi, send me a DM. If you can get through to me on the via DM, you can just leave a comment on my post. Just leave a comment, and then I'll reach out to you. I'll DM. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can see that you're already using what I just taught you on this call. You're already using it, so that's fine. Essentially, I love the fact that you're already using it. So yeah, sure, let's connect.
Thank you very much, Gbenga. So I hand over to Mr. Itayo to take over from now.
We all put our hands together for the Grand Master. So thank you very much, Olugbenga, for this wonderful session. I've also enjoyed it myself. In fact, the next youth development series workshop we are floating is on volunteerism. So you have given us a prelude to that particular session. From my own little experience, I actually had a breakthrough because of this volunteerism. And I wanted to use this also to encourage those of us who are working. While I was in the University of Ibadan, all I did was I was just volunteering, particularly for my professional association. I was the one that designed the website. Then it used to be Yahoo groups. The first and the only one that we had then, I was the one that created it. The blog, I was the one that created it. So just like you said from your experience, I just got from the blues a particular workshop in Salzburg in Austria. And I just applied, and I was the only one that was taken, simply because of those things that I've done in the past. So I would like you all to please go back to the video where I've shared the link with us, or go to our channel and watch this video over and over again. I am telling you, what he said is so true and life transforming. So if you do not want to remain the same, you want to make impact in your community, and you want your life to be better, career-wise and otherwise, volunteer. Wherever you are, volunteer. Before you know it, you become the top of the mind. So we want to thank you very much. On Monday, we have 2 programs. The first one we're going to be having in the morning is on employability webinar, which we're supposed to have last Monday of the month, but because last Monday of the month is a public holiday, we have moved it a week backwards. And in the afternoon, we're having very important discussion on what's the topic again? Road safety awareness workshop. And we're having great people from US. The commercial is going to be there. And then we have several other people also who will be speaking. So please, let's invite our friends and let's enjoy the program together. And with this, I want to thank everyone for coming on this program. Once again, we thank you, Olugbenga, for the wonderful session you have given to us free of charge. We appreciate you very much. We also thank Josephine also for facilitating the session, Sulaiman for reading the bio, and all the directors for helping us organize at different locations. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye, everyone. Bye.
Thanks.